Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Paul Kurgis. I'm the Dean of the Alexander Blewett III School of Law here at the University of Montana. Welcome to the 2016 School of Law Commencement. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones, and let's give a round of applause to Celtic Dragon, led by John Haffey and Jeff McMillian. Not quite 3 years ago, our graduates today entered the School of Law as law students for the very first time. And my suspicion is they probably remember very, very little of that first week. It was probably a blur, but that doesn't mean it wasn't significant. It was the first step on a path that led them to this day. Along the way, they learned to read in brief cases. They wrote and rewrote papers for Professors Howell and Wandler. They tried cases. They negotiated contracts. They competed in moot court and mock trial and negotiation competitions. They wrote comments and notes and edited articles for the Montana Law Review or the Public Land and Resources Law Review. They represented real clients with real problems in clinic. They laughed at their professors at the Smoker, and they made friends that they will have for the rest of their lives. And somewhere along the way, they made a transition. They went from being law students to being lawyers. And that is the achievement that we celebrate with them today as they embark on the first step of their journey as lawyers. I'm pleased to announce our stage party. From my right, I have our registrar, Lisa Marie Heislip, our Associate Dean of Students, Elaine Gagliardi, our commencement speaker today, the Honorable Chip Erdman, Chief Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, President of the University of Montana, Roy Sengstrom, and on my left, Professor Jordan Gross, who's the faculty reader today. That's the position voted on by our students, and it's one of our highest honors for a faculty member. And our Associate Dean, Andrew King-Rees. Please join me in welcoming the members of our stage party. And at this point, I'm pleased to welcome Dean Gagliardi to the lectern to announce our Student Graduation Award recipients.
From the beginning of their journey in the autumn of 2013 until now, each member of the class of 2016 has explored the ever-forward movement of the law with the utmost intellectual curiosity and vigor, and in doing so has demonstrated integrity of character and a commitment to compassionate service. It is my honor to share with you today the names of those in the class of 2013 who have exemplified these characteristics, which imbue the terms of counselor and advocate with the noblest of purposes and intentions. As I read the names of the award recipients, I ask each recipient to stand so that we can acknowledge them. The John P. Aker Award to recognize outstanding achievement, Nicholas Vandenbos. The Emmett C. England Award for demonstrated conviction and concern in the rendition of legal services, Jake Coolidge. The American Bankruptcy Institute Medal of Excellence for excellence in the study of bankruptcy law, Martin Rogers. the Clinical Legal Education Outstanding Student Award for Excellence in Fieldwork and Excellence in the Seminar Component of the Clinic, Gregory McDonald. The Edward A. Kremer Award for the Best Research Paper in the Field of Environmental Law. We have two recipients, Wesley Furlong and Nicholas Vandenbos. The Dean's Award for Recognition of Student Leadership, Hannah Kale. The Fran Elgie Award for Recognition of Demonstrated Commitment to Human Equality. Again, we have two recipients, Heidi Sanders and Caitlin Lamb. The William S. Frost and May Lynn Smith Award to acknowledge a strong commitment and enthusiasm for protecting and enhancing the rights of Indian peoples and tribes, Hannah Kale. The Norman Hansen Legal Writing Award for the Best Appellate Brief in Appellate Advocacy, Hannah Seifert. The International Academy of Trial Lawyers Student Advocacy Award for students who demonstrate an overall ability in trial advocacy by high achievement in trial practice, evidence, and pleading and procedure courses. We have two recipients, Robert Padmos and Mike Wilson. The Eddie McClure Memorial Award presented by the Indian Law Section of the Montana State Bar in recognition of dedication to the advancement of Indian law or service to Indian tribes or individuals, Christina Corville. The Justin Miller Award for Outstanding Leadership of the Montana Law Review. We have two recipients, Lars Phillips and Mike Wilson. The Carol Mitchell Award for Demonstrated Excellence in the Study and Practice of Alternative Dispute Resolution, Jonathan Omakawa. The Order of Barristers for Outstanding Achievement in Appellate Advocacy. We have several recipients, Tyler Stockton, Paige Griffith, Hannah Seifert, Jason Collins, Carolyn Jabadlo, Michelle Tafoya, Michael Pasquet, and Adam Wade. The Outstanding Contributions to International Law Award for recognition of demonstrated contributions to international law development, Mike Pasquet. The Outstanding Law Student Award, awarded by the Student Bar Association, Hannah Kale. The Phi Delta Phi Award, awarded to an outstanding senior by the Phi Delta Phi fraternity, Mike Pasquet. The Exceptional Pro Bono Legal Services Award to recognize exceptional volunteer legal services as a law student, Jeff Wilson. The Paul Raftery Award, awarded for exceptional dedication and diligence in their approach to clinical work. Ariel Overstreet Adkins. And our last award, the Weymouth D. Sims Award for excelling in writing an appellate brief and presenting an oral argument before judges of a moot court, Tyler Stockton.
Thank you, Professor Gagliardi, and congratulations to our award recipients. And thank you also to all the many donors who make these awards possible. It's that kind of giving back to the law school that helps us celebrate our students in this way. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of the members of this class who started on that first day with them 3 years ago, but who is no longer with us, Jeff Hathaway. Tragically, Jeff passed away during the spring of his second year here at the School of Law. In recognition of the work that Jeff put in here, the University of Montana is awarding Jeff a posthumous degree with the class that he would have graduated with. Jeff's family is here with us today to take part in this graduation celebration. We're delighted that they could be here. And I'd like to take a moment for us all to observe a moment of silence in memory of Jeff and the loss we feel at his early departure. In honor of their classmate, the class of 2016 has designated that its class gift be a scholarship in Jeff's name to be awarded to a student participating in the School of Law's China program next year. To date, this gift is over $2,000. More than 40 individuals have already donated to the scholarship, and that includes Jeff's classmates as well as students from other classes, faculty, staff of the school, and others. Please join me in thanking everyone who has chosen to honor and remember Jeff and the impact he had on the law school. As we celebrate the accomplishments of our graduates, I'd also like to acknowledge some of the individuals who have helped to guide these students through the path that they have taken on their way to success in this wonderful profession. The faculty of the Blewett School of Law have all been instrumental in transforming these law students that you entrusted with us into lawyers. We'd like to take a moment to honor some of our faculty members with our faculty awards. I'll ask that each faculty member stand as the award is announced to be recognized. Our first award is the Boone Faculty Scholarship Award, presented to a law faculty member demonstrating excellence in scholarship. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Anthony Johnstone is the winner of the Boone Faculty Scholarship Award. The Howard and Jane Heeman Memorial Law Faculty Award is presented to an outstanding professor in the field of law. This award this year goes to Professor Stacy Gordon. The Pauline and Robert Poor Faculty Service Award is presented each year to a law faculty member whose service to the profession and the public is particularly noteworthy. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Jordan Gross is this year's winner. The Marjorie Hunter Brown Teaching Stipend is awarded annually to a law professor who exemplifies the spirit of professionalism and professional qualities for which Marge Brown was known, particularly in her fields of Indian law and natural resources. I'm pleased to announce that Professor Monty Mills is the recipient of this award. The Garlington, Lawn, and Robinson Teaching Award is awarded annually to a law faculty member demonstrating excellence in teaching. This year, Professor Martha Williams is the winner of the award. And our Adjunct Faculty Teaching Award is awarded to an adjunct faculty member for excellence in teaching. We don't always recognize our adjunct faculty as much as we should. They're indispensable to the education we're able to provide. And this year I'm delighted to announce that Professor Marcia Holland is the winner of the Adjunct Faculty Award. Please join me in recognizing our entire faculty for their deep commitment to teaching, scholarship, and service on behalf of this university. And we couldn't do any of the work that we do, and our students couldn't register for classes or get jobs or do any of the other wonderful things that they do without our fantastic staff here at the law school. Please take a moment to recognize our staff. Now I'd like to welcome today's speaker, the Honorable Charles Chip Erdman, Chief Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. Chief Judge Erdman is a native of Great Falls and a 1975 graduate of this law school. He began his legal career as an assistant attorney general here in Montana and then held a number of positions in state government before opening his own private practice in Helena, while also serving as a JAG officer in the Montana Air National Guard. In 1995, he was appointed as an Associate Justice of the Montana Supreme Court. He served on the court for 3 years and then left Montana and the U.S. to join the office of the High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina, eventually becoming Chief Judge of the Bosnian Election Court. In 2002, he was appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces, a court that is located in Washington, D.C., and hears appeals from courts martial around the nation. Chief Judge Erdman has served as the chief of that court since 2015. Please join me in welcoming Chief Judge Chip Erdman.
Let me get my indispensable notes out here so I don't bore everybody. President Engstrom, Dean Kurgis, distinguished faculty, parents, family, friends, and of course the reason that we are here today, the graduates of the class of 2016. Congratulations to all of you. I think it's safe to say that most of you graduates wouldn't be here without the support of parents, spouses, or others. And today we honor both the graduates and those whose assistance and encouragement were integral to your success. Dean Kurgis, I want to thank you for the invitation. I have to admit that I initially thought it would be kind of fun to see the look of disbelief on the faces of some of my former professors, but then I figured after 40 years they're no longer around. It's certainly an honor to be at the Alexander Blewett III School of Law. Xander and I grew up together at the same time in Great Falls, and the Board of Regents made a wise decision in renaming the law school in recognition of the philanthropic generosity of both Xander and Andy in a number of different areas. When you hear that one or two people can't make a difference in this world, you only have to look in their direction. And while I'm honored to be here today, I'm also a little apprehensive. I haven't given a commencement address for, I think, about 25 years, and I think that was at a Judith Gap High School graduation. So obviously I haven't had a red-hot commencement address career, but I'm moving up the ladder. Not having recent experience, I asked some of my friends for advice, and that can be summarized as follows. Be brief, say something humorous, be brief, have a few nuggets of wisdom, be brief, sit down. I was already a believer in being brief. Judges, perhaps more than most people, have a real appreciation for brevity. Having sat as an appellate judge for a number of years, I'm very aware that if you can't say something in 20 minutes or less, you're probably not going to be able to say it in an hour. And you're going to lose your audience as you drone on. And I can attest to that because I've been a member of that lost audience on more than one occasion. 100 years ago, appellate court arguments could take hours, if not days. Today at our court, we give each party 20 minutes to make their case. Now, of course, it's much harder to be brief than it is to be long. But I promise, if nothing else today, I will be brief. Make no mistake, today is about you graduates. And you will forgive me if I talk a little bit about my career in the law. I do that only to let you know that if my career is any indication of what you might expect, the sky is really the limit for you. Graduation from law school is, of course, more than just receiving a diploma. It's a key that unlocks doors to any number of opportunities that you may not now even know exist. 41 years ago today, I sat where you graduates are now sitting. I was off to be an assistant attorney general in Helena, and I had some hazy idea about going into private practice at some point. And all of that happened. But my career, as many of yours will, took many unexpected turns. On that day in 1975, I never dreamed I'd sit on the Montana Supreme Court. Had no idea I would run an international human rights and rule of law office in Sarajevo, or become the chief judge of the Bosnian Election Court, to say nothing of being the chief judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. But the nicest thing about that entire journey is that there wasn't a stop along the way that I didn't enjoy. The most satisfying and fulfilling period was certainly my time in the Balkans. And while I truly love being a judge, I think the period that I enjoyed the most was when I hung my shingle out in Helena and became a sole practitioner. But the real key, as I said, was that I enjoyed it all. And hopefully, when you're at the stage of your career that I am at right now, you'll be able to say that as well. Law is a great career, but it's a demanding profession, and it's going to ask a lot of you. It's one of the few professions that requires you to take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that's a high responsibility that you can't take lightly. It's not always going to be easy. And if you find you don't enjoy the practice of law, find something else. If you're not happy with what you do, you're not going to be happy with yourself, and life is far too short for that. People sometimes ask me, well, what prepared you for all these various positions that you've held? And when I think about it, the answer is obvious. It was, to a large degree, the education that I received at this law school. Even back then, in the early 1970s, the law school not only taught academic aspects of a legal education, it also taught the practical aspects. And that was somewhat unusual in those days. And fortunately, the school has continued to stress a practical education along with an academic education. And I have to say I was really impressed to see the number of clinical opportunities that were available to you. And you should know that not all graduates from other law schools will have had those same opportunities. Now, I never took a course in international law. I don't think there was a course in international law offered when I went to school here. And I certainly didn't take a course on how to negotiate with Eastern European ministers of justice and ministers of the interior. But the basics that I learned here gave me the analytical ability and the confidence to deal with any number of situations. You identify the problem, you develop a solution, you bring adversarial parties together, you negotiate an agreement, often in very difficult environments. Does that sound familiar? That's what lawyers do. And you have all learned those skills. But having said that, there was one practical area where my law school education was lacking, I'm sorry to say. When I went over to the Attorney General's office in Helena, I shared an office with a fellow graduate of the class of 1975. And there were a few technological aspects of the office that we weren't very familiar with. And one was the phone system. In those days, the AG's office had the latest in telephone technology. And that was the 6-button phone. Some of you may remember that. A lot of you students will probably remember having seen them in old movies. But it was a phone set, and there was 6 buttons along the bottom of it, and 5 of the buttons were usually for outside lines, and 1 was for the intercom. Now, I'm a little reluctant to identify my office mate, who went on to become a prominent Montana attorney. So for purposes of this talk and to protect his identity, we'll just call him Jock. Well, one day shortly after we got there, Jock wanted to call a friend. So we picked up the receiver and dialed the number, and it was answered with a gruff, "Hello, hello." And it was obvious to Jock that this wasn't his friend. So he hung up, thought he got the wrong number. So he tried it again, same result, hung up again. What neither of us realized was that Jock was dialing on the intercom line. And the Attorney General's intercom started with 4, and the numbers in Helena started with 4. But we didn't know one line from another. So Jock tried again, and this time the response was, "Hello, hello, do you know who this is?" Jock answered, "No, this is Attorney General Woodall." Jock didn't miss a beat and said, "Do you know who this is?" The Attorney General said, "No." Jock said, "Good," hung up the phone. He grabbed his coat, left the office, and I didn't see him for the rest of the day. Most of you will pursue careers in law, but others will go into areas where a legal education isn't required, but it's always going to be beneficial. And of course, that's just fine. A legal education gives you an advantage in just about any career you can think of. You'll find people with law degrees working in business, education, the news media, or, in the case of my class, as contractors, authors, and artists. And you can bet that their law degrees were helpful to them all the way through. Remember, all the skills that you've learned are easily transferable from the practice of law to any number of different fields. For those of you who do go into law, many will specialize. You know, there was a time, and in my lifetime, when most attorneys were generalists. And I think part of the reason that we see more specialization today is partially because of the advances in technology. Years ago, clients would come in to see their lawyer and they would discuss their problem with them, or they would write a letter, very detailed letter explaining what their problem was. The lawyer would then go research the law, draft up an opinion letter, and mail it back to them. It was a very deliberate process. Then came the fax machine. And clients started to expect that when they faxed a question in, they'd get a fax back with the answer. And then, of course, came the internet, and clients expected a response by return email. And the time to respond, and therefore the time to research and reflect, became more and more compressed. So I think specialization was a natural consequence because it allowed attorneys to become really familiar with particular areas of the law. For instance, today, Georgetown law lists 35 discrete areas of legal practice. And of course, there are tremendous opportunities in public service, where I've spent a good deal of my career. This includes governmental agencies, the judiciary, legal services, charities, public interest law firms, and non-governmental organizations. All attorneys have the opportunity and the obligation to work for the betterment of society, but perhaps nowhere is that opportunity better than in public service. Now, your career, wherever it takes you, won't always be smooth. You'll face adversity, and you'll probably face it more than once. The important thing is how you deal with it. After I was appointed to the Montana Supreme Court, I ran to retain the position at the next statewide election, and I lost. The first question that I was asked, of course, was, well, what are you going to do now? By that time, I'd sold my law office building, all the equipment, the furniture, the lawyers who would work with me had moved on. Shortly after the election, my mother, who had some experience in winning and losing elections in Montana, called me. She was very upbeat and gave me the classic advice that my defeat might be a blessing in disguise. Well, that immediately brought to my mind Winston Churchill's response when he was voted out of office immediately after leading England through World War II. His wife Clementine told him that his defeat might be a blessing in disguise. Churchill's response was, "Damn fine disguise." But in fact, for me, it was a blessing in disguise. After the election, my wife urged me to take 6 months off, which I reluctantly agreed to do. The habit of working every day, particularly when you're working at a job that you really enjoy, it's a hard habit to break. And if you're not going to work, you feel guilty every morning. And so it takes you a while to get used to doing nothing. And so after about 6 months, I told her I was just getting into the swing of things. And I thought that I needed a little more time because I was just getting used to being in a retired life. And she looked at me and she said, "You're not retired, you're unemployed." I was then able to pursue an opportunity to go to Bosnia as an international elections supervisor. And that first exposed me to that country and the challenges that it faced after almost a decade of war. And the Bosnian War, of course, now is just old history. A few months after that experience, I was able to go back and work for the High Representative, the international official, who was charged with overseeing the country's transition from communism to democracy and from a centrally controlled economy to a free market economy. And included in that was the reform of the judiciary. A German judge and I started by organizing the first anti-corruption unit in Bosnia. I then went on to coordinate the numerous rule of law programs that were being offered by various countries that were often at complete cross purposes to one another. When you try to join common law and civil law systems, and the country at that point didn't have a system, it was very confusing and very difficult. And from there, I became the head of the Human Rights and Rule of Law Office. We had around 40 national and international attorneys. We were responsible for judicial reform, the development of human rights institutions, public education, property rights, and domestic war crimes trials. I also had the opportunity to develop a complete revision of the Bosnian judiciary, and that was implemented, and that is now in place. It was tremendously interesting, rewarding, and exhausting work. After doing that for several years, my wife and I, along with our dog Jim, decided we were ready to leave Sarajevo and come back to a little slower life in Montana City. We literally had our bags packed when the U.S. ambassador called and asked if I'd be interested in becoming the chief judge of the Bosnian election court. Well, that was a very intriguing idea, but I said, no, we were ready to go home. When I told my wife about it later that day, she paused and said, "Well, what would you really rather be doing?" That led to another year and a half in Bosnia, until the election court function was absorbed into the Bosnian High Court, which is the equivalent of our U.S. Supreme Court. The election court was interesting. It had jurisdiction over any offense that involved the elections, from a technical violation to voter fraud, intimidation, and violence. There were 6 Bosnian judges on the court, 2 Bosnian Serbs, 2 Bosnian Croats, and 2 Bosnian Muslims, reflecting the 3 main ethnicities in Bosnia. None of the 6 judges spoke English, and I spoke very little Bosnian. So court conferences were a challenge. We'd often have more interpreters in the room than we had judges. But The court worked, and in the post-war studies of Bosnia, the election court is considered to have been a considerable success in keeping the dominant and often corrupt ethnic-based political parties from abusing the election process. And that experience provides a valuable perspective. These judges came from the three ethnicities which, a short time before, were fighting each other in a devastating war that reintroduced ethnic cleansing to mainland Europe. Bosnia is a small country. Before the war, it had a population of about 4.5 million. Today, it has a population of 3 million. All of the judges that I worked with had either lost family members or friends in the war, to say nothing of their homes and property. But they were able to sit down and work together and make responsible rulings that upheld the rule of law and benefited the entire country. I think most of us would say that our country has the best legal system in the world. But as good as it is, it does have its problems. Many people still lack access to legal services. The system is often too slow and too expensive, and there's a noticeable decline in civility amongst lawyers, and the list goes on. But those problems are small compared to what attorneys and legal systems face in other parts of the world. And if they can work together and resolve their problems, we certainly can too. But those problems aren't going to get resolved without your involvement. So take an active role, not only in your profession, but also in your community. No one is better equipped to sit on the various boards and commissions at the state and local level than attorneys. Your education alone gives you the opportunity to make a meaningful difference. So get involved and make that difference. Thank you again for inviting me. Congratulations, and I wish you the very best in your new careers.
We have a gift, a token of our appreciation to Chief Judge Erdman. He will be leaving the bench as his term ends in 2017 and returning to Montana, so we wanted to give him something that would help remind him of Montana in the meantime. We have a Monty Dolak print for you, Jeff. He just told me that Monty Dolak's mother was his music teacher in grade school. It's a small state. I'm pleased to announce that we have with us today a group of Native American singers who will recognize the accomplishments of all today's graduates with an honor song, which will be sung for us today by Dominic Messerly, Hunter Blassingame, and Antone Paul. Please rise. Thank you so much for honoring our students with a special song. And I'd also like to thank our signer, Bonnie Christensen, today. At this point, I will welcome to the stage the graduating class designated speaker selected by his classmates, Nick Vandenbos. Nick?
Good morning. Thank you very much, classmates, for asking me to speak today. It's a tremendous honor and a privilege to be up here. It is also, as I look around, more than slightly intimidating, especially to do it while balancing this hat. And I think that might be because after 3 years of law school, my head has actually gotten so big that I think it's going to pop off. So, I do, however, take comfort in the knowledge that at least one member of the audience is on the edge of her seat. That, of course, is my mother. She has informed me in no uncertain terms that I cannot say anything inappropriate up here today. So don't worry, Mom. I got you. I have a suspicion, though, that this privilege may have less to do with any insight I may have to offer than with the hope that you have that I will at least have the decency to keep things short and avoid sermonizing. After 3 years of lectures, I imagine you're eager for the last one to be over. Fear not. Just like Chief Judge Erdman, I too believe that brevity is the soul of wit, and if I preach, it will only be a little. So here we are. If you're like me, you are probably feeling the urge to pat yourself on the back right now, and not without reason. Just think of everything we've learned. From torts, never touch a stranger. From contracts, get it in writing. From ProRes, call Professor Gross. From common law, how to diagram an amoeba on the whiteboard. But the fact of the matter is that none of us got here on our own. We are each the beneficiaries of those who encouraged us, who picked us up when we faltered, who put up with our late nights and early mornings and frenzied talk of mens rea, Chevron deference, and a thorough probing of the dormant Commerce Clause. These are our mothers and fathers, our sisters and brothers, spouses, partners, children, and of course the faculty and staff at the law school, all of whom have made it possible for us to be here this morning. And many of them are here with us right now. Just like take a moment to say thank you to them. It is important this morning as well to acknowledge that we are not all here who began this thing together. Last year, as Dean Kurgis mentioned, we lost a classmate, Jeff Hathaway, and I know that we all wish he could be with us here right now. Jeff was a gentle person with a gruff exterior. As a classmate, he could always be counted on to cut through what I call the law school nonsense, which is a mother-approved word. By that, I mean he didn't buy into the desire that we law students get look smart, or the anxieties that we have about making a mistake, like the uncertainty we all felt as school began about just exactly what in the hell a 12b6 motion was. As a friend, Jeff was generous and kind-hearted, a person whose experiences had made him more understanding of the faults and foibles of those around him. I said he isn't here with us today, but I don't think that that's quite the right way to put it, because we can see examples of Jeff's friendship in each of us who knew him as a colleague and as a friend, and we can see the love his family has for him in their presence here today. Two memories stick with me from the first week of law school. Both involve the intro week that we probably may or may not remember. We were busy simultaneously sizing each other up and pretending we'd all be able to pretend, we didn't suffer from debilitating cases of type A personality. The first memory is the growing sense of shock and horror I felt as Professor Wandler terrified the class by cold calling at random on a case I hadn't read, followed by the sense of bewilderment I experienced as she then had us all lie on the floor and close our eyes and listen to a meditation soundtrack. I'm not sure that those feelings have entirely ever gone away. The second is Professor Monroe's admonition to act carefully because the impressions we were to make in law school would follow us into our professional lives. I admit that this idea sometimes makes me a little nervous. No one who's had to spend much time with me in the law review office will be too surprised by that. Because of course he was right, we will remember. But I'm confident that what will stick with us are not those things that seemed so important at the time, things like awards or grades or jobs or whatever else, the nonsense, but the way that we were together day to day, month to month, year to year. I'd like to take a moment now just to mention a few of the things that I think we will remember. We will remember classmates who dedicated themselves to helping others, from victims of domestic violence to inmates in Montana's county jails to landowners seeking balanced use of their property. And we will remember the classmates who helped each other out from day to day, whether that meant sharing an outline or just a pat on the back. We will remember classmates who balanced school with family, who raised children, who commuted every day to Missoula so they could spend time at home. And we will remember those monastics in the library, late on Sunday nights, burning their candle at both ends to get those final cases read, those last paragraphs written. We will remember classmates who entertained us with their wit at the smoker. And we will remember classmates whose whispered jokes, always respectfully delivered, made whatever lecture we sat through that much more bearable. We will remember classmates who ran marathons and triathlons, who managed somehow to maintain top fitness despite the grueling schedules of school and work. And we will remember classmates who underwent surgery and recovery, and by whose example we saw what hard work really looked like. We will remember celebrating as we watch classmates marry and begin new families, and we will remember mourning as we wept with classmates who suffered tragedy and loss. We will remember classmates whose cheerfulness never seemed to fade, even in the depths of finals. And we will remember classmates who, after a particularly brutal test, picked each other up, dusted each other off, said the hell with it, and went for beers. Above all, we will remember how we soldiered through together through the days and weeks and years to arrive suddenly here. Those are the few of the things that will stick with us. I'd like to conclude with a final observation. When I was a kid, my mother would often drop me off for school on her way to work. She was a school teacher. She taught nearby. And she would, from time to time, leave me with these parting words. Nicholas, be kind to someone today. At the time, this advice was frustrating, mostly because my general experience, especially once middle school hit, was that everyone else should be trying a little bit harder to be kind to me. But those words have stuck with me for 20 years. Be kind to someone today. It's not a phrase one might initially associate with the law. It sounds a little soft. It sounds a little sensitive, maybe hard to reconcile with our mandate of zealous advocacy for our clients. But I don't think that that's true for two reasons. The first is that I've seen a lot of kindness here in the past 3 years, and if there were ever a place where kindness might get stamped out, law school would be it. I've seen it from everyone consistently, even at those moments when it would have been easier to come back with a snide response or a cutting remark. I have also seen a number of snide responses and cutting remarks, but nobody's perfect. It's not that we're taught to be unkind, but that the pressure that come to bear once you sit down in the lecture hall are powerful and can be insidious. One way to try to make yourself look better, after all, is to make someone else look worse. You just need to watch a few political ads for proof of that fact. And the second reason, and this is the preachy part, so brace yourselves, is that you don't have to be soft to be kind. If being kind means treating each other with respect, means being decent to one another, and reaching out to help those who struggle, then it fits with our mandate as counselors quite well. And in fact, it makes us stronger. So kindness and advocacy aren't mutually exclusive. They exist together each time you treat a colleague with respect. Listen to others. Take a moment to hear what your opponent has to say. Nor are kindness and success antonyms. We will do better, and I'm not talking about money or prestige here, but we will do better when we help each other out, when we take the time to say hello, to ask how the other is doing, to listen to what we have to say. There are, to put it mildly, a number of problems in our world today. Being kind is not going to solve them, but it's a way to start, and it sure as hell is not going to hurt. As attorneys, we are going to serve the public, and we will serve best when we help each other most. Montana is a small state. We are going to see each other again, so let's be kind when we do. Thank you. Congratulations. See you soon.
Will the class of 2016 please rise? At this point, I will welcome President Royce Engstrom to the lectern. President Engstrom, on behalf of the faculty of the Alexander Blewett III School of Law at the University of Montana, I'm pleased to present these candidates for the Juris Doctor degree.
Thank you, Dean Kurgis, and congratulations to you on your first commencement as Dean of the School of Law. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Regents of the Montana University System, and upon the recommendation of the faculty, I hereby award the degree Juris Doctorate upon those of you who have successfully completed the requirements, which should be all of you. Let's recognize these successful candidates.
Please be seated, and now I'll welcome Professor Jordan Gross.
I'll ask the first row of students to please rise and come up the stage when I call your name. Jacob Anderson. Ashley Alexis Archer. Roseanne Sia Balasavas. Jeffrey Rankin Ball. Matthew Beckers. Christopher Becci. Amanda K. Boutwell. Aaron Brand. Hannah S. Kale, graduating with a certificate in Environmental and American Indian Law. Usa Carlson. Katrina Clausen. Jason Michael Collins, graduating with honors. Jake Coolidge. Christina Marie Corville, graduating with a certificate in American Indian Law. Melanie Caitlin Diazadoro. Michael Lawrence Ellinghaus. Nathan Ellis, graduating with high honors. Wesley James Furlong, graduating with certificates in environmental and American Indian Law. Carrie Jabadlo. Sarah Gray. Sarah Elizabeth Grieb, graduating with a certificate in environmental and natural resources. Paige Marie Griffith, graduating with honors. Austin Gunderson. Lucas Hamilton, graduating with honors. Aaron Harris, graduating with honors. And as the Dean mentioned, today we will be granting a posthumous degree to Jeff Hathaway, and receiving the degree on behalf of Mr. Hathaway is his mother, Peg Manning. Clark Robert Hensley, graduating with high honors. Lindsay Wes Ramadka, graduating with honors. Alexandra Scott Hurley. Sarah Lloyd Hyde, graduating with a certificate in American Indian Law. Andrew Scott Jenks, graduating with honors and a certificate in alternative dispute resolution. Jaden Johnson. Jonathan Kennard. Caitlin Grace Lamb. Gregory Arthur McDonnell. Cassie Marie Meyer. Mary Kate Moss. Nathaniel Mount, graduating with a certificate in American Indian Law. Kara Nipper. Noriyoshi Jonathan Omokawa, graduating with a certificate in alternative dispute resolution. Ariel Overstreet Adkins, graduating with honors. Robert Padmos. Michael Allen Anthony Pasque. E. Lars Phillips. Kai Nielsen Perman. Sierra Nicole Ryer. Diane Rice, graduating with honors. Tristan Tripp Rydell. Zachary Taylor Rogala. Martin Rogers, graduating with honors. Christina Rovira Gonzalez. Heidi Sanders. Peter F. Schlemler. Dual Schneider, graduating with a certificate in American Indian Law. Joseph Arnold Schussler. Hannah Rachel Seifert, graduating with honors. Michael Patrick Sherwood, graduating with a certificate in alternative dispute resolution. Morgan Nicole Smith. Rob Sperry. Tyler Michael Stockton, graduating with high honors. Michelle Renee Tafoya. Lindsay Marie Thane, graduating with a certificate in Environmental and Natural Resources. Brian Thompson. Patrick Tillish, graduating with a certificate in Environmental and Natural Resources. Nicholas Rip Cigar Vandenbos, graduating with high honors. Andrew Emmett Vigeland. Elizabeth Olivia Vigeland Crespo. Adam Wade. Chris Walker, graduating with honors. Dan Wenner, graduating with a certificate in environmental and natural resources. Jeffrey Neal Wilson. Mike Wilson, graduating with honors. Georgina Zobenica.
As everyone in this room knows, and as Nick so eloquently expressed, it takes more than just one person to achieve a law degree. It takes a community of family and friends to support a student in achieving this goal. The family and friends in this audience have been there when needed, whether that was to provide financial support or give encouragement at those times when law school just seemed like an insurmountable task, provide childcare, just listen. The graduates couldn't have done it without you. I invite the students and faculty to stand at this time and express their thanks to everyone in the audience who helped make this possible. Be seated. Almost there. You began your law school career by taking an oath, and by our tradition, I have the opportunity to issue you a charge as you embark on your legal careers. And this is my charge to you. Never forget why you came to law school. You had other options. Let's face it, law school's taken a beating in the media in recent years, but you still chose to come to law school. And I know from speaking with you, many of you anyway, that you made that choice because you wanted to make a difference, because you saw in the law an opportunity to affect people's lives and to change society for the better. Never forget that. As you embark on your careers, many of you will go on to do very well financially and to end up well off. But I would also encourage you to consider that those of you who do good will end up better off. With that, we will conclude our ceremony today and invite all of you back to the law school, where we will have a brunch in the law school atrium. Congratulations, graduates of 2016.